If you want to see a movie about finding somebody, where it didn't take long to first remember and then find the person, a story about a photographer who wanted to change the narrative of the North as a dusty and backward place, but instead reinforced it by taking pictures in the bush and never even showing us any of it. And a script that probably confused even the scriptwriters since you are never quite sure what they are going for. Finding Nina is the movie for you. The film, produced by Nemsia Studios and directed by somebody who somehow managed to not fall asleep while doing so, is currently showing on Prime Video. It explores missed connections, weird friendships, and the very sensible and risk averse idea that a bird in hand is worth two in the bush. This movie feels weirdly empty, so this review, unfortunately, will be a short one. The movie starts off by introducing us to JB or Jaber, a photographer, and Raya, his art gallery owning friend, who also happens to have a crush on him, even though she herself is being chased by some government contractor called Benga. The actor playing JB, Abdulazeem Ibrahim, is totally unfamiliar to me, but Raya is played by the delectable Tomi. They have this weird ass dynamic where it's obvious that Raya wants JB, but JB both recognizes so in one moment and then completely acts oblivious of it the next moment. It's insane. It was the most infuriating thing because it makes a lot of the conversations and outlook in this movie almost redundant. We can see you recognize it, so why act ignorant later? We start the movie at a photography exhibit at Raya's gallery. There is a portrait of some dusty kid from another photographer, and this image triggers JB, who is, in his words, unhappy about the negative narratives that people peddle about the North. In this movie, they always say some combination of the words negative, regressive, narrative, and North in the same sentence, and it just always sounds so chat GPT-ish because it's just weird how many times they actually repeat it almost verbatim. Also, in this movie, they make the North, that's northern Nigeria, sound almost like it's a small kitchen instead of the fact that it is almost half of Nigeria. JB is miffed that Rhea is displaying such photographs in her gallery, and I was even more confused because what is she supposed to do? He's a photographer, right? He's a business person. Also, is this not her business? Is she the guardian of the North or what? Honestly, at the beginning, I honestly just kept thinking that this JB was a little maybe autistic and maybe they will reveal it later, maybe due to some trauma. But no, it was just low quality script writing. For someone who takes pictures of various people and things for a living, he seems to have a really nutmeg sized mind. We see multiple attempts of Rhea cozying up to JB, like this time when she arrives drunk at his place and heads for his bedroom, while he behaves completely oblivious as to why she would be inviting him upstairs. Like, okay, oh, Mr. Joseph, always talking about how much work he has to do as if he's not a photographer. I mean, that's like the only profession where the professionals make life hard for themselves. Nobody asks you to use a generational wealth to buy a camera lens. Just point and shoot it, I promise, you don't care. At some point, the portrait in contention got millions of views online and opinions. And we even find out that Raya sold it for about $50,000. So it was like the highest selling piece of work in her showing. And JB opines, save as where he must be talking about the global north because it can't be northern Nigeria that he's talking about. He is challenged by Raya and his other friend Fred to travel to the north and take pictures that will change the regressive narrative of the north as a backward place. Ah, God. So you see how silly those words just sound when you say them all together all the time. He tried to whistle out of it by saying he's busy. And thank God for his friend Fred, who asks, like, bro, it's just a camera in your hand and a human being or a plant or a building standing in front of you. You are not performing brain surgery on the rabbit. How busy can you be? Anyway, off goes JB to the north, wherever that is. The north in this movie is so heavily color graded that it just looks like someone spilled poster color on the camera. Of course, we get our introduction to the area with two Amajiris fighting on the road, and phew, very progressive, I tell you. I absolutely love the fact that the first cab he enters has a guy in front carrying a goat because that is exactly almost how my first cab experience from Kayama in Kwara State to Kanji in Niger State went during my youth service. The ram was in the seat behind me, I think, while I sat astride both the front passenger and the driver's seat. So the gear stick was between my crotch. Like, I kid you not, this was the weirdest bloody thing I had ever. So JB lodges with his auntie and uncle, with his uncle and aunt in the village, and strikes up a friendship with an Amajiri boy who becomes sort of his tour guide. Amajiri is a well, I don't really know how to explain it if you are non-Nigerian, but I'll try. Technically, they are adherents and students of Islamic education, usually from poor homes. Their parents want them to, grow up in the way of the Lord. But practically, they are mostly beggars who walk about with these like big bowls, always asking for rice loudly. It's a very sad situation. I do not at all mean to make light of it because it just underscores the illiteracy and the lack of social services and the lack of ability to integrate into a formal school system that plagues northern Nigeria, which in this movie this clown wants to solve with the camera. So we shall see. While walking about and taking pictures at a local market, JP realizes that he had accidentally taken a picture of his childhood sweetheart, Nina, but she's nowhere to be found nearby, when he looks up. Now, this missed connection has him in a chokehold, and he begins asking around, all to no avail. Well, there was some avail when he attends a wedding with his uncle a few days later and runs into Nina on the bridal train. Now, Nina is played by, I'm sorry if I butchered his name, Ijapari Ben-Hirki. I remember seeing her in Beyond the Veil. Very, very, very fine girl. But I just hope that she's not being typecast as a throwaway love interest in all these things. They meet up a few times and go around taking pictures and doing picnics and other stuff together. And again, Jesus, he reminds her about how he hates how the North is perceived as a negative and backwards. Oh my God, somebody should just shoot me between the eyes. God. We have heard, while all this lovey-dovey stuff is going on, JB has been withdrawing from Rhea, the person who is apparently paying for this trip. And he even inadvertently rises up her jealousy by constantly yapping about Nina, first when he was searching for her, and then afterwards when he had found her. And this is even on the occasions where he manages to pick Rhea's call. Rhea just basically just decides to give her other toaster a chance out of heartbreak, finally. At some point, Nina asks JB about their relationship and what would happen when it was time for JB to return to Lagos. And he says he will take her back so she can find a job or something. Now, he says this in the most ambiguous way. So you can't tell if he's coming to Lagos as his lover or as his guest or what. Because he says that there are things that she would love to see and do, and she can meet his friend, Fred. I don't even know who talks like that. Which adult talks like that? This is all weird because a woman asking you such a question is not expecting a tourist guide answer. What do you mean you can meet my friend Fred? Are you guys in like primary school? The weird thing about it though, the weird thing about this part of the movie is that I actually like it. Because first, it goes to the roots of human relationships and how they are usually built out, right? And some of the stereotypes that exist around them. For instance, men are not always sure of themselves. So they are always expected to be in control and take charge and and lead and tell where the relationship will go. But I like how in this particular example in this movie, JB is as clueless as like a 10-year-old child. So I kind of liked it. I kind of liked that he was unstable and that he was just talking out of his ass, even though he didn't really know what the answer was in his own mind. The movie is full of these beautiful shots, but I really don't know. It's also a bit empty, so it's like almost like nothing happens. There's a weird point that comes up like 25 minutes to the end of the film. And believe me, I kept tapping the screen to check how much time was left because I was afraid that the movie would actually end without, changing the narrative of the North as a regressive and backward place. Now, JB tells Abdul, the Amajiri boy, a story of how his mother cheated on his father as a kid, which was why he left the family, complete with a recollection of his father berating his mom in a car one night after they returned from an outing, while he listened from a window inside the house. By the way, in his memory, you can see that the father removes his camera from around his neck and gives it to JB. So, are they saying that he drove with his camera around his neck? Sure, you see how these photographers just like to make life unnecessarily hard for themselves, just so that we can take them seriously, eh? I beg, please, before the arrows begin to fly by night, I beg, na joke I dey joke. I appreciate photography and all that stuff. I bring up this particular memory about his mom cheating on his dad because later when he reminds his uncle about his mother's cheating, which destroyed their home, the man sets him straight and reveals that his mother left because his father had wanted to take another wife. So we get the same memory again, but this time with the correct conversation about his father wanting to marry a second wife and the mother being angry about it, and not about the mother cheating. None of the sentences from the first and second recollections even jive. So you can't say that JB misheard something and then things linked together. They are two entirely different conversations. It was the weirdest thing. Like, how is this possible? Is he mentally ill? Like, what was the director going for? This movie plays as if every time you blink, you've skipped like 5 minutes. It's so weird. I didn't understand this entire sequence at all. Anyway, towards the end, there's a lot of uncertainty about how JB intends to move forward with his life. He has a heartfelt conversation on the hill with Nina, which I really, really like. It's probably my favorite scene in this entire movie. He's, in the end, unfortunately, just a man who is barely in control of anything. And all of a sudden, even though he was acting completely oblivious to Ray at the beginning of the movie, he suddenly had memories of them being playful with each other and shit. Like, but damn, this Tomi is fine. God damn. JB suddenly developed a kernel of affection for her somehow. I mean, it's all very shabbily written. And don't forget, this clown has still not managed to change any regressive northern narrative kiniko to his pictures. We don't even see any of the pictures that he took on this tour. It was such a confusing and confused movie. But don't just take my word for it. Check it out on Prime Video. Finally, here is my verdict for the overall thing. For the cinematography, I have to say some shots were super cool to look at, especially the interior lighting of the mosque and the grittiness of the public spaces. It had this documentary feel, though I found the color grading a bit upsetting sometimes. The greens were just too verdant and the blues were too deep. It looked like those weirdly colorful pictures that Lagos State uses to showcase Lagos construction projects on Twitter, always too blue just to make it look fine. As a rule, never ever trust the kind of color grading that will change the water around Third Mainland Bridge from a boarding house tea color to blue. Like, never. So in all, the cinematography, I'll give it a 3.5/5. I think it was pretty cool. For the plot, I found it quite haphazard. I mean, it's called Finding Nina, but he wasn't even looking for Nina until he mistakenly took her picture at the market, and he found her like 20 minutes later. So it's not like she's been some great love of his life that he has been dreaming about and thinking about, for many years since he first took her picture as a child with his father's camera. The pacing is super slow and nothing really happens, which is a shame since it's so pretty to look at. The whole acting oblivious to Rhea while staring down her toaster was just confusing to me. I don't think that Fred had to tell Rhea to give JB the green light. Like, we could have seen that from the story. Fred himself is almost no use as a character. I don't know what he is. Maybe he's like the director's cousin or something. His acting was, I think, supposed to make the whole thing not feel so claustrophobic, but he doesn't really have a purpose, I think. So yeah, so for the plot, definitely a 2/5 or even a 1.5. If I'm acting wise, I think it was just alright, nothing spectacular. JB had this thing at the beginning where he would speak in clipped tones as if they were like burning coals in his mouth. I didn't like it because it didn't feel like he was acting. It was like a candid camera or a podcasting or something. He really did behave as if he had some sort of learning disability, and weirdly, his moodiness reminded me strongly of my bestie in junior secondary school. It turned out that this guy, my bestie, had been traumatized by the murder of his mom by Ambrobas or by acid or something. I can't remember now. But JB got better when he found Nina, though. So at least he stopped speaking in those clip tones that I found irritating. I liked Tomi Ojo's acting. It was a bit muted, but I guess she had to manage the script like that. I had the weird idea that her scenes were claustrophobic and low budget. Like, she was always in a room or in a car or in a couch. It just made the movie feel somehow like a short film whenever it switched to her. I don't know. At least JB's uncle was a breath of fresh air. He was very jovial. I liked his the spirit around him. We had one thing where it was like he was going to have an issue with his wife or so at the beginning, but I don't know. It never actually played out. So I don't know. In general, I'll give the acting for this movie 2.5/5. For the editing, I'll give the editing makes me think of an independent art house film. The scenes are stretched too long, and it didn't help because there was so much story to be told. But I'm still glad that it stuck to 90 minutes run time, because it's been a while since we saw something like that. So 2.5 over 5 for the editing. All this combines in a general score of 2.5 over 5. It's a nice movie if you are looking to sleep and maybe see one or two interesting conversations towards the end. But I think it kind of lost the plot from the beginning. Sorry about that, Nemsia Studios. Before I sign out, I just wanted to appreciate your comments and your views on my to kill a monkey reviews. If you haven't seen it, you can check it out. There are the last two videos I made on this channel. All right, see you on the next one.